Yo, what's good, everybody? GZTV back with another video, and today we are going to be talking about the second episode of Season 4 of Breaking Bad. We have 24 more episodes in the series to go, and it's been a pretty good one. We're trying to develop some storylines here, possibly introduce some brand new characters in this season. It's going to be a good time now. We're going to have this video, and we're going to have the Boys episode review. That's all for the YouTube, but tonight on my Twitch, from a little after 9 till whenever I get done with the reactions. I gotta be in bed by like 11:30 tonight because I have my wisdom teeth removal tomorrow, and I'm not too excited about it, but I asked off for the rest of the week, so the Twitch is going to be bussin'. We're going to be playing some games. We're going to be reacting. New Music Friday this week. It's going to be a great fucking time. But we got to get through our wisdom teeth removal, obviously. Tomorrow, I'm just making some channel announcements. Tomorrow, no YouTube videos, I'm not going to watch any TV tonight. Give myself a break from the YouTube. But tomorrow night on Twitch, I'm going to try to stream. I would say by Thursday afternoon, I'm going to 100% recover from the surgery. Talking about the plot here, and we're going to go in the reception of this episode. So yeah, Walter illegally purchases a .38 caliber snub-nosed revolver, which he intends to use to kill Gus because he believes Gus will kill him if he does not act first. So, Gus kind of sends warning in the first episode of the series, and Walt's like, you know what, I'm going to have to take matters in my own hands. I had Jesse kill Gale. I need to kill Gus. Mike drinks coffee at a bar and discovers Victor's dried blood on his jacket sleeve. He wants to get that off because that is evidence in a criminal investigation. But yeah, Jesse has purchased expensive electronics, including a sophisticated sound system, but remains miserable after having murdered Gale. So he's still like, oh my god, I killed someone and I'm reaping the benefits of it. I'm taking advantage of the situation to kind of be by myself and like enjoy myself. He kind of feels guilty. Jesse's a good person. I mean, you may think like he's a troubled individual. He's been in the meth business for a while, but he is a really good person. He has a good heart deep down. He's a character that everyone kind of roots for on the show. In an attempt to get over Gale's death, Jesse has Badger and Skinny Pete arrange a multi-day party with dozens of people dancing, drinking, and doing drugs. So, kind of a stress reliever, partying with his friends, Skinny Pete and Badger. Those two and Walter are the only three guys that really mess with him that much. Maybe Andrea. Andrea, he's kind of made a friendship with from the Narcotics Anonymous group. But yeah, he throws a party to deal with the death. He wants to get over it, Badger and Skinny Pete may not be the smartest individuals, but they're Jesse's friends, and they're there for him, for his moral support, so I definitely support that. Yeah. While cooking meth at the lab, Walt waits for Gus to arrive so he can kill him. So this whole time he's been practicing his hip draw of his gun. He's like, sitting in a chair with another chair across from him doing it. It's kind of a funny scene. Walt kind of makes a fool of himself in this episode. He does some pretty stupid things. He tries to pull off the Heisenberg persona. It just does not work for him. Instead, Victor's replacement, Tyrus, arrives with Mike, and Mike informs Walt he will never see Gus in person again. Gus knows that Walt is probably after him, so being the smart individual that we've seen Gus be this entire series, he decides to hide away and get away from Walt, but Mike doesn't know that Walt knows where Gus lives. I don't think he knows this. So Tyrus is kind of a character we're introduced to in this season. He's the new assistant. He doesn't have a lot of character development just yet. We're going to see what they do with him throughout the season. It'll be interesting for sure. That night, Walt drives to Gus's house, but before he can approach, he receives a call from Tyrus, who says simply, "Go home, Walter." So yeah, then Tyrus calls him, acting as the new assistant, already a more useful assistant than Victor. Victor had made a lot of mistakes, did a lot of bad things, and at first I was surprised that Gus killed Victor, but looking back on everything, I think Victor deserved it. He did a lot of stupid shit. He wasted a batch of meth trying to be like Walter White, and it didn't work, The next day, Walt approaches Mike at a bar, and Mike says he observed Walter tailing him there. So, yeah, Mike knew this whole time. I don't think it would be that easy for Walt to just go and kill a drug lord professional like Gus. He is one of the better antagonists in television history. He's not just going to lay down for Walter to kill him. He has people that have his back, his assistant. He has an assistant for a reason. Yeah, Mike reveals that in the lab he could tell Walt was carrying the pistol. So, Mike, as an experienced police officer, he's a perfect guy to work for Gus, which I only thought he worked for Saul at first, but he's starting to work for Gus. He wants to protect Gus. He knows he has a gun. He knows he wants to hurt Gus. Um, Walt suggests Mike and he are in the same danger because Gus could easily kill Mike the same way he killed Victor. I don't know. I would kind of disagree with that because I think Mike is a lot more intelligent. He's a lot more useful. I think Victor was just doing some stupid shit. He was an ordinary citizen called up for a job. He did it well at the start, and then he kind of just choked it away, leading to his death. Walt asked for Mike to put him in a room with Gus so Walt can kill him. He's like, Mike, please just do this for me. You work for Saul. You don't have to work for Gus. You already work for Saul. Just go back to Saul and betray Gus. So, yeah. Mike punches Walt, knocks him to the floor, kicks him several times, and leaves the bar. So Mike literally assaults the shit out of Walt for honestly no reason. I mean, Walt didn't do anything to Mike. These two were acquaintances at this point. I mean, they were both associated with Saul. Mike just loses his shit, beats the hell out of Walt, and leaves. Skyler calls Walt to inquire about buying the car wash where he once worked, which they plan to use as a front business for Walt's drug money to kind of hide all the bad things that Walt has been doing throughout the series. Skyler is serious about this plan. She doesn't even want it as a business cover-up anymore. She really wants to buy the car wash as a business venture. Walt fails to act, so Skyler does her own detailed research about the business's expenses and revenues. Taking her child to the car wash, noticing how they wash certain cars, how they manage it, how they clean everything, yada, yada, yada. She later approaches Bogdan about buying, the owner, the, Indian dude that was, yelling at Walter at the beginning, his boss, Bogdan. But he angrily rejects her and condemns Walt for insulting him when Walt quit working there. So he knows that Skyler is Walt's husband. Or, Skyler is Walt's wife, sorry. Her last name's White, for crying out loud, and Bogdan wants nothing to do with the White, so he literally rejects it, gives her a ridiculous price, and says it's not happening. Marie struggles with Hank's deepening depression as he continues his post-shooting physical therapy, so Marie is definitely struggling. She's feeling bad for her husband and all that stuff. The bedridden and bitter Hank constantly ignores or insults Marie, and even after he celebrates a successful session with his physical therapist, he refuses to share the excitement with Marie. Get out of my room, I need to be by myself. I understand Walt. I think Skyler's Hank. I think Marie is kind of an annoying character, so I don't necessarily blame Hank for being annoyed, but after 3 straight days of partying, Badger and Skinny Pete are exhausted and go home, as do all the other partiers at Jesse's house. Jesse didn't want this to happen. He wanted all of his friends to stay around. He needed the support. And by the way, Andrea approached Jesse. That is one thing, this Wikipedia page, which is where I'm getting the plot at. Maybe not the smartest thing, but that's where I'm getting the plot at. Andrea approaches him and asks about the money he dropped off after killing the gangbangers that killed Tomas and the guys that worked for Gus, right? Alone with his thoughts, a depressed Jesse breaks down while sitting less than an inch away from his sound system speakers, which are turned to high volume. So he's kind of trying to deal with his depression with the music, with his alone time. At first, me and my dad, we watched this together. We kind of thought he was going through withdrawals because he was taking cocaine and snorting meth and all this other stuff. He was kind of getting back into it. He was kind of relapsing. But then I realized, he killed Gail. It's a very heavy situation for Jesse. It's not that he doesn't want to get caught. It's that he just really feels bad. He's a moral person all in all. But he had to do what he had to do. But yeah, let's talk about this. This is going to be another long video. Let's see. The second most watched episode of Breaking Bad in series history marked a significant drop in viewership compared to the previous week's episode. Box Cutter, seen by a series high 2.58 million viewers. Yeah. If Sergio Leone had grown up in a meth den, he would have loved this episode of Breaking Bad. Those extreme close-ups of Walt's face mimicked the opening shots of the good, the bad, and the ugly. Those tense silences before Walt drew his gun were straight out of Fistful of Dollars. So much of it felt like a western, right down to the high noon standoff, with our hero casting a long shadow and pulling down the brim of his hat as he approached his arch enemy. Very positive reviews for this episode. I com- I would compare the direction of this episode to the filmmaking of Sergio Leone, particularly in its extreme. We already. Okay, I don't even want to talk about that. We already talked about that. The filming techniques used in Jesse's party, which starts off like a rap video, then turns into some kind of distorted, jumpy tweak vision, effectively conveyed Jesse's frame of mind. I like the way the script conveyed Marie's increasing isolation in dealing with Hank. The episode's a terrific, unsettling episode. Really, I like the directing, the cinematography, uh, the shooting of Jesse's party scenes in a way that lets you experience the chaos just as Jesse was trying to. Uh, I like the way Aaron Paul acted as Jesse. He keeps finding new layers of Jesse and new talents to show them with. The film noir elements in the episode's photography I liked. The opening scene with Walter staring in the mirror asking, "So how's it look?" refers to the season's ongoing theme of internal self-reflection and surveillance. The episode didn't advance the plot very far and included a great deal of internal development among the characters, which I would say is an interesting new dynamic for the show to explore. Jesse's emotional breakdown in the end was easily the most chilling thing so far this season. It's another incredible episode. The impending conflict between Walter and Gus is the makings of one of television's finest showdowns. The script made good use of the supporting characters and that the growing distance between Hank and Marie was particularly well handled. This episode is I can compare this episode to like the third season episodes that had very few scenes and sequences but luxuriated in them, allowing the characters and the viewer time to experience the tiny eddies and currents of the moment. An overhead shot of Walter standing outside Gus's house alone, one of the best shots in the show's history. I really like the scene with Walter approaching Gus's house. Breaking Bad has always been good at creating, an air of tension, but now it seems as though the series has mastered it. Jesse's acting job during the breakdown ripped my heart out and shredded it to pieces. The photography and direction during Jesse's party scene was masterful. Here we are, 4 seasons into Breaking Bad, and I shouldn't still be amazed at the innovative visuals or perfectly honed sense of sound. These are masters at work, people. I enjoyed the episode. I found Walter's character increasingly difficult to sympathize with, though. I liked the scene when Mike attacked Walter, while I enjoyed Jesse's acting performance and Skylar's subplot, of course. I like the opening scene with the gun purchase. I would say it's reminiscent of season 1 when the show took the slow, fascinating steps that no other program would touch. I also like the episode for taking the viewers inside the mind of Walter and Jesse. I like the slow pace of the episode. I like the show's lack of predictability. I had no idea how Walter's confrontation with Gus would end. That's why you gotta like the show. The opening scenes, kind of like the work of Quentin Tarantino. The bar Mike frequents, the most beautifully shot setting I've seen in TV lately. He also called the subplot between Mary and Hank a surprisingly interesting story. I like the show's clever pieces of misdirection by having Walter purchase his gun but never getting to use it, by showing Mike's conflicted emotions but having him side with Gus against Walter. The episode ultimately felt like a placeholder for bigger developments in the storyline. Not all reviews were entirely positive. Most people would say Walt's near assassin of Gus was the highlight of the episode, but feel Jesse's story was less compelling and extremely repetitive. People found the subject with Hank and Marie difficult to enjoy because Hank was so unsympathetic. This is probably one of the worst episodes in the series. There's not really a bad episode in the series. It's just not much. There's definitely some masterful things, but all in all, it's in the worst half of the episodes. This is the worst episode we've probably gotten all series, if I'm being honest with you. But yeah, that's pretty much gonna do it for the video. I gotta shoot the boys, and then I gotta go get ready for work. I work 3 to 9. I work on an hour, 10 minutes.